Hi, this is Game Changers with Vicki Abelson. I'm Samantha, and we're here live with Erik Eldenius.
Yay!
All right.
Eric. So the last time I saw you, you're sitting behind a very big kit in a very big room playing with a lot of very big people.
It's easier to sit than to stand.
And you see the asses of many, many people.
No comment.
No comment. So Billy's got a nice one.
He does.
He does. So Erik, for those of you who don't know, if you haven't been reading my social media, Erik has been drumming with Billy Idol for 7 years?
7 years.
Okay, so I want to hear how that gig happened, but I want to know about you first because I'm intrigued because I
Why?
come to learn that you're Swedish. You know, I think Swedish. I think accent, blonde hair, blue eyes. You know, you're not the Swede of these stereotype. So, how did your family come? How many generations Swedish are you? What's that about?
Actually, none.
Oh,
Yeah. No, I was born in India.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what made you guys? But I thought you said your parents were Swedish.
Yeah, they are.
They are. Okay, so
I was adopted.
Okay, you were adopted.
Slowly getting at.
Oh, okay, so you're adopted. So are your parents of the blonde hair, blue eyed Swedish?
Yeah.
Do they have the accents?
Well, my dad doesn't have much hair anymore, but I think he was sort of blondish at one point.
Blondish at one point. And so, how were you adopted as a baby? Older?
Yeah, I was just a few months old.
And so, was it weird to be not blonde in Sweden?
Yeah, at times. At times it was. I think you're young, you're a kid, you're naive, you don't really know or feel that different maybe at first, and then slowly.
Are you the only?
No, my sister is also adopted from India, but we're not blood related.
So now, but were you the only kids in your school that were of color?
No, there were a few more, maybe 5.
Out of a lot of kids.
Yeah. It was, I think, my parents, their friends, I think they had found some agency in India, and it was they were able to adopt children a lot more easily because of the connection, I think. Because it was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 of us Indians running around in the small little towns.
You were in a small town in Sweden?
Yeah.
And Swedish is your native language?
It is.
Okay, that's totally bizarre. So how did you learn English when you were there in school?
English is mandatory once you start 4th grade, but I sort of had to learn it a little earlier because we traveled a lot.
Oh, really? What did your dad do for a living?
He worked for Volvo Penta, the boat engine.
Okay.
Not the cars.
Uh-huh.
And so that he traveled a lot. While I was still a child, and at one point it took him to Nigeria, Africa, for a year and a half, and so the whole family moved when I was I'm trying to think, 4. No.
So you're not in school when you were there?
Been 5.
You were in school?
I wasn't, no. But I went to school in Africa. In fact, it was a whole bunch of families that moved down there, and our family in our apartment, we hosted the classroom every day. So they flew down a Swedish teacher to teach all of the Swedish kids, and so part of the reason why I had to sort of learn English early was because I just simply had to. I can't go to Nigeria and speak Swedish.
Were they speaking American? Were they speaking English there?
They speak primarily French, actually, but they speak English too.
Do you speak some French?
A little bit, yeah.
That's pretty nice that you got all that going on.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah.
So at what point do you realize that you're different? Do you think?
I think when people make you feel different.
Were you bullied?
A little bit. Not in a sort of evil way. I don't think I was bullied any more than anyone else that was maybe different in other ways. If maybe it was a kid with red hair, or maybe it was a kid with big braces, or
right,
the obese child. Yeah, I mean, for all the same reasons.
Kids are mean. mean.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
Kids are just mean. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But I probably wasn't the nicest person either. You know what I mean? So
were you okay? So now looking at you now, so were you a tough? Were you like a punky kid? Were you like a rock and roll kid? What was your thing?
I liked rock and roll. I don't think I was the tough kid. I don't think I was the punk kid. I was just, young and stupid and rebellious and just wanted to play music.
Okay, so when did that start for you?
Early on, my dad gave me my first drums when I was 4. So that's pretty early.
Gave you your first what?
My first drums.
You started. Okay, I read something that you were playing piano at one point. Did you started on the drums?
Yeah, I did. But we had all kinds of musical instruments laying around the house. So,
was your father a musician? Your mother?
Not professionally, yeah, but they
both
play.
play.
Music lovers, and my dad still plays the saxophone and
Oh,
plays
nice.
flute and guitar, and it was a very encouraging household.
And what kind of music were they listening to over there in Sweden when you were a kid?
They were kind of listening to a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
My dad listened to a lot of jazz, a lot of Elvis, Donna Summer.
Some disco. Eric played with Donna Summer. That's a trip. We're gonna talk about Donna. So they listen to some disco. They listen to it all. You're getting all the American music, I assume, and
Yeah. Absolutely.
is there Swedish music that is Swedish music a part of your life? Hi, Phil.
Not really. I mean, there's a lot of great Swedish jazz musicians and a lot of great, classical music coming out of Sweden. But maybe aside from ABBA,
Yeah.
I love ABBA. I was
Do
a
you?
huge fan growing up.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything really that's sort of stuck with me
Mm-hmm.
other than them. I'll still listen to the record.
That was kind of before your time, though, too. I was like
Yeah,
the 80s,
like-
right?
No, before that, I think,
Is it
I think their
70s?
first
Yeah.
records came out sort of around the same time that I was born, even. Yeah.
So, are there classic stations? Are you growing up on classic American rock, or?
Oh, yeah, probably more British rock.
Okay,
Yeah.
So who do you like who's influence? All right, wait. You're 4 years old. You get a drum kit. You're taking lessons. You teach yourself. What happens?
Both, yeah. I had a lot of older friends that were drummers. They would come over and bear with me.
Why drums? Was that what you wanted, or was that what your father decided you were going to play?
No, he never decided any of that stuff. I think it just came. I mean, I think like most drummers will probably tell you the same thing. That, you end up banging away on pots and pans and breaking everything around the house, and I think pretty soon your parents, can
They figure
draw
out
the conclusion that it's probably drums that he wants to play.
So you just kind of had that natural rhythm, and you were just kind of putzing around on things.
Yeah, I think so.
So you got this drum kit, and so what kind of music are you playing when you're 4 years old?
Kiss.
You're playing Kiss.
Oh, yeah.
I know Ace.
Still one of my absolute favorite bands.
Is it really?
Bunch of crap for saying that, but I don't care.
How do your parents feel about Kiss?
I think they were a little concerned at first, like most parents. But no, they never, they never ever interfered.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's very unusual. I like your parents. I like the fact that they were so encouraging and cool about things. That's really lovely.
Yeah,
Are you close with them?
Yeah, I am.
I like that. That's very cool.
They're still together. Can you imagine? Can you believe that?
Okay, that's how long have they been married?
A long time.
Long time.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
Over 40 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they celebrated their 40th anniversary. I'm trying to think. 5-6 years ago.
You're very soft-spoken for a guy who beats the shit out of things for a living. You are. You're very soft. You're very soft-spoken. You're very gentle for somebody that. And you are, by the way, you are a monster in the best possible way. I mean, you are a full body drummer. I mean, you're a full body drummer. Like, you don't play this way. You play this way. You're over in your whole body is in there.
Maybe that's how I get my aggression and energy out, you know.
When's your birthday? What's your sign?
September 10th.
Wait a minute, did we already we just passed that. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Oh, nice, Virgo. Okay, so yeah, you're very put together. You like things organized, clean, nice and neat. I get that. So, okay, so 4 years old, you're playing some Kiss. Do you play jazz?
I do, yeah. That's what I was going to do. I was going to move to New York and be a jazz musician. And there's still that sort of distant fantasy.
Did you ever make a stop in New York and do any playing there?
I never lived there, no, but I mean, I've been to New York many times.
Right,
I played there, luckily. But no, that plan sort of changed quite late. Actually, just like a couple of years before I ended up moving here.
Okay, so you're a kid. You're a good student. Good in school.
I was a good drum student.
You were a good drum student. You got by in school.
I did. There were certain things that I was really good at. There were certain things that things that I was very, very interested in, and I tend, obviously, like most kids, you tend to do well.
Like what interested you?
Like languages, sports.
Did you play sports?
I played soccer, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
I was a goalie.
Okay, I was going to say which soccer, because I know in Europe sometimes they say soccer and that's or baseball, right? But you played soccer, what we call soccer. No. What do they?
You're talking about football.
Football.
American football, and then football for us is soccer.
Soccer is football. Yeah. Okay. I know nothing.
All
right. So you played soccer, okay, and a goalie. So
goalie, yeah.
Got hit.
Think about it. It's not completely unlike being a drummer. You're there in the back, kind of keeping an eye on the herd.
Looking at everybody's ass. You seem to look at people's asses a lot. There you go.
What can I say?
So
pick the best place.
Who's the best ass you ever? Who's the best person to look at from behind that you've played with?
Well,
Cher.
You know what? I can say this.
Yeah.
When we did the David Letterman show with her, and we did the sound check, I guess she was wearing something rather thin, and from where we were sitting or standing, we could pretty much see everything. And at some point, I guess she was a little self-conscious about not about her ass, but the fact that maybe it was very visible to us. So she turned around at one point and said, "Hey guys, I just need to ask you honestly, can you see my ass?" And I was, "What are you talking about?" No idea what you're talking about.
Nice.
But
not a bad ass to behold, I'm sure. Okay, so you're playing music. You're doing okay in school. What's the dream when you're little? What's the first dream?
It was always music.
And in what did you see? What did you envision? What did you picture?
I was going to move to New York and be in a rock band.
And being a rock band, that was the first thing.
It's all about Kiss, I'm telling you.
It's all about Kiss.
Yeah.
Peter Criss, huh? So did you ever meet him?
I never did, no.
Did you ever meet any of those guys?
Yeah, I met Gene and Paul a couple times.
Sometimes it's better not to meet your heroes. Was it good for you? Were they nice to you?
Yeah. It was very strange, actually. A few years ago, we played this festival in Europe called Download in Donington. And both Kiss and Motley Crue were also on the bill. And of course, two bands that, that I grew up listening to. And, we're playing. It's like this huge crowd and whatnot. And we're all excited. And at one point, I look to my left, and there's, Tommy and Nikki standing on the side of the stage watching us. And then I look over to the right, and there's Gene and Paul standing on the side watching us. And it's like, okay, keep it together now, because this is a bit too weird. And at one point, I actually turn around, and Gene is standing right behind me, taking a picture over my shoulder of the crowd. And I said, okay, just breathe. You can get through this. But it was very humbling and exciting all at once,
Did you talk to them? Did they say anything about your playing? Anybody ever? Everybody's just being cool and being what they're being.
Festivals like that is just more about the hang. And,
And kind of nice that you get to meet your heroes and live that dream.
Yeah, they say that, never meet your heroes and all that stuff, but, most of mine that I've met have been, pretty cool. Some I've become friends with, so.
Without asking who, have you met anybody that you had on a bit of a pedestal that was disappointing?
I probably have. I mean, no one really.
But if no one's really coming to mind, that's really good.
Yeah. I think, it all depends on, maybe, you can catch someone on a bad day. Or,
absolutely.
Like, it doesn't mean that they're always going to be, assholes. It could be.
I was, Bob Dylan was sort of my god growing, I'm old, and in the 60s there was nobody like Dylan, and my friend Kenny Aronson was playing bass. Do you know Kenny? Bass player? Anyway, so he was playing with Bob at the time, and I got invited up to the recording studio when they were doing a session, and as I was getting out of the elevator, Kenny stopped me and he said, "You don't want to come in today." And it was just one of those things. It's one of those things.
I mean, when someone is sort of in their creative space, and not every day is going to be great in the studio.
Yeah,
sometimes,
of course.
You need that privacy, and sometimes you just have a bad day, and you just don't want to be around anyone, or sometimes it's a great day.
So so how did your career start? So are you in bands in Sweden when you're growing up? Is that like a thing?
Yeah, I mean, we had a few different bands here and there, but nothing really materialized because I.
Sorry, somebody's asking you, Crystal. She wants to know if you're single. You're getting hit on Facebook already while we're live.
I don't think we need to talk about my personal life
on
Facebook Live.
Oh.
Other than that, I'm going to open this Ricola and suck on it because you caught me on my first day of allergy season.
I know. I'm sorry. Hi, Crystal. All right. While you're putting that in your mouth, hi, Penny. Hi, Phil. Hi, Mary Ellen. Okay. Hi, Rick. She's saying, "Oh my God," because I asked you if you're single. I asked you if there was anything you wouldn't talk about on the air. Really? You don't talk about your personal life? Come on.
We are talking about my personal life.
Well,
telling her that I was bad in school and that I dreamt of living in New York City.
Okay, so so a couple of bands. So do you go to college? You did. I read something.
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm. After high school, I went to music college for 2 years. In
Over
Sweden.
there?
Yeah.
Over there. Mm-hmm.
It was great. Like, you get thrust out into the boonies basically for 2 years. You live there, and
all you do is play.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
And what kind of music are you playing in college? Are you playing jazz? Are you learning jazz? And
a lot of jazz, but rock and roll, R&B.
So, how do you transition over here? What happens?
So I moved in '97. And at this point, like I said, I pretty much always wanted to move to New York, but I kind of started to move back into the rock and roll direction musically from jazz.
Okay.
And
every musician I've interviewed has a passion for jazz, started in jazz.
Yeah.
That's it.
Why not?
I guess. I know for me, progressive jazz, I never understood it, and I didn't really have a great appreciation, although just lately I've met some really incredible players. Mike Lang piano player, is going to be playing here. Jeff Young's playing here with Danny on Tuesday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the living room. Yeah, come by if you're around. But, okay, so how old are you when you decide you're going to...
I was 20 when I moved.
You're 20, and you come right to LA? Why to LA?
Well, it was either going to be New York or Los Angeles.
Right.
So
LA wins.
Yeah, it did.
And so all those clubs, the Roxy, the Troubadour, all that stuff is a hotbed at that time. And what's the first gig you get? Do you come here with a gig, or do you?
No. I didn't know anyone when I moved out. Well, there's a couple of people that I met while they were sort of on tour in Sweden, and sort of struck up a couple of friendships. No, my an interesting story actually. I was living in Northridge, and you must remember the Recycler, right? The magazine.
Well, I'm a New Yorker, and I am not
Okay.
here that one, but I do know the Recycler. Yes.
Right. So towards the end of it,
Mhm.
you know, there were the ads for
Right.
musicians, like, you know, and I find this ad, the drummer needed it, you know, for like tomorrow or something. It was a very last minute sort of desperate ad. R&B band, drummer needed for R&B band, must know, blah, 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 all the classic R&B hits and whatnot, blah, blah. So I respond like, yes, I can
And
do
did you have a knowledge of music, R&B, rock? Like, did you have a big catalog of?
I suppose, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
Was that something you put effort into as a kid to like learn all the music?
yeah, I was a student of a lot of different styles of music, and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really sure, you know, like a lot of kids, like which direction you wanted to go, and I just had a passion for so many different styles of music. And to be honest, I mean, I don't even really think of them as styles or categories. It's just
Good music.
yeah,
Good music's good.
it's good music or bad music.
Okay, so you see this thing in the Recycler, and they're looking for an R&B drummer, and
Yeah, and they said it pays $5. And I'm like, great. I get in my car, load up my drums, drive from Northridge to Inglewood. And I only have one goal, and it's basically to get hired again.
okay,
So I try to do my best.
$5.
Get my $5, which would probably pay for the parking. And luckily they hired me again. And that was sort of my motto for every job that I got, was to get another job from that job.
And so what is that? I like that. This show is a lot about how to merge creativity and commerce and how people did it. How are people living their dream? How did they succeed? So for you, what is it that gets you to get, because it's not just the playing, because a lot of people can play. What do you think, what do you do to make yourself sort of indispensable so people are going to want you back? You have a good work ethic? You show up on time?
Yeah, yeah. But I'm absolutely positive it's my absolute sick and demented sense of humor.
I saw a little on your website. It's good. So if you're fun to be around, people want to be around
I don't know.
you.
I mean, some people probably find me annoying or inappropriate, but you know, I guess I am who I am, and
So
you know, it's just simply one. I mean, you just can't try to fit in or fake your way through things. Well, maybe you can. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I think you naturally just find a group of people that you work well with, and
Now I'm getting
that's-
the call. Are you comfortable in those situations? Like when you went into that, I'm starting to cough. When you went
it's
into
not me,
that,
I'm telling you.
when you went into that first audition from it's Harry's coughing too, from the Recycler.
Everyone's coughing.
You walk into that audition.
It wasn't an audition. It was just.
You got the gig. You just
Well,
showed
no,
up. and
it
got-
was a gig. They were desperate. They needed a drummer, and they had no one.
You were like the only person that showed up?
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, I probably convinced them over the phone enough to say, like, yeah, I can do it. I don't think they even really cared. They just needed a drummer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where was the gig? What kind of venue?
I can't remember. Some bar in Inglewood.
Okay.
And I guess it was sort of like a party band because they did a little bit of everything. And so I ended up doing a few more gigs for them, you know, that year. That's a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. So okay, what did that? So where did that take you? What's next? And how are you supporting yourself while you're making $5 drumming?
You know, I have some savings.
Did you ever have to do a day job?
I've never had a day job.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel very lucky.
Was there ever a plan B?
No, never a plan B. Don't have a plan B. It's just.
I don't believe in plan B.
No, it doesn't work. For a few months, I moved into a guest house that I couldn't really afford, but I really wanted it because I could have my drums set up there, and practice and stuff without bothering people.
I was going to say, how hard has that been for you?
I've lucked out.
Yeah?
In most places.
You never have people like calling the cops and giving you shit?
No.
That's good.
So in order to sort of comfortably afford that rent, I was delivering sandwiches.
Okay.
Like 5 days a week. For like 2 hours in the morning, I would go pick them up at the restaurant and drop them off.
You'd be great. They have like Postmates now and Uber Eats and shit. There's a lot of people playing some drums and doing that during the day.
Yeah. But yeah, so I didn't have to do that for very long.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what was the first? What happened after the little band in Inglewood?
So the first tour that I ever did was this folk singer named Jude. He was on Maverick. And I toured with him for a while, and then I met this A&R person his name is Barry Squire. He's kind of well known around town, and he helped out a lot of musicians to get their touring jobs because different managers or musical directors would call him and basically ask, hey, we need someone for this type of job and whatnot, and he basically had a Rolodex with every musician in town. So he would set up auditions and get a lot of people. He helped out a lot of people, and I got a lot of work through him.
So was that sort of your thing? Was that your intention to be a session player or a touring music? You didn't say, okay, I want to find people and I want to start a band and I want to.
That was not really my intention back then. Like I wanted to sort of get my feet wet by being on the road a lot and sort of have that experience.
And how was that experience for you when you first did that?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it, yeah.
Do you still?
I do. Oh yeah. Probably now more than ever.
Really? Because now you do it with a lot more style, right? Yeah.
Well, let's just say that the way we tour now is a little bit different than how I was touring back then.
So touring, when you first started touring with Jude, you want a bus? What's
No.
What's
You're in
it
a
like?
van.
You're in a van.
Yeah.
And
you're sharing a hotel room with the bass player.
And you're sharing a hotel room with the bass player, and you're making a little bit. You're making okay money.
Yeah, that gig was actually pretty decent for its time.
And how long did you do that?
I can't remember, a few months.
Okay.
And then I came back into town and ended up getting more calls to do auditions through that guy Barry Squire. That kind of kept going like that with a bunch of different people.
So I don't know the order that things happened for you. What was your first big gig? Who did you?
First big gig. Oh yeah. I don't know. Maybe at the time, Donna Summer was probably the first, real star that I played with.
Was that trippy because then I'm sure the venues changed when you.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to kind of. The first gig that I did with her was at some arena. I think it was called Cox Arena, maybe in San Diego. It was one of those Jingle Bell radio shows around Christmas. And I remember playing with her and thinking well, better not look around too much because the place was so big. I'd never really played in an arena before. So I just had to sort of keep it together and keep my cool and keep the concentration on the music, not be distracted and get nervous by this big venue.
Did you let yourself look out when you were done or getting close to did you let yourself look out and take it in?
Yeah, I had a few moments, sort of like after the first 4 or 5 songs when you feel like, okay, I got this. I haven't fucked up yet, or no one's yelling at me or throwing eggs at me. I guess I'm allowed to look out now. So, but yeah, that was probably the first big thing. I think so.
And how was it to meet her? I know you listened to her music and your parents were into her. Did she live up to your expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. She was super nice. And her husband was singing with her as well. And unfortunately, after she passed away, well, not unfortunately, but unfortunately she passed away, but I was able to continue to work with him. His name is Bruce Sedano. He made a couple of records and did a bunch of gigs. But they were both super, super nice, and yeah, I was a little nervous about meeting her, I guess. But yeah, she definitely lived up to it.
And then, and so are you also, so you're touring, but are you also you're a session player, so are you in the studio with people, and how did that start for you? Same way?
Yeah, I think it started with, maybe I was doing local gigs with different artists, and they were maybe going into the studio to make some demos or something like that. A lot of the studio work that I did in the beginning were not, big records that were being released on major labels or anything like that. A lot of it's just demos.
Right.
That never really see the light of day. But that, kind of got...
So did you get into like a circle of people, of musicians are you generating your own calls at this point, or is this guy still helping you, or other?
Barry helped a lot with the touring stuff. The studio stuff was, I think what happens for a lot of people is you hook up with a few different producers that you get along with, and then you sort of become their drummer for whatever they're working on. Maybe not everything, but that's certainly what happened with me. And so the first sort of big producer that I worked for was Keith Forsey, who of course produced most of Billy Idol's records. And so I met him early on.
How long ago? Like way before you started playing with Billy?
Oh yeah, way before.
Yeah.
May have been 23.
Oh wow.
I think. So, well, indirectly that was actually through Barry. So Barry called me up and said, hey, asking me if I wanted to audition for this local artist named Nick Frost, who was doing this sort of electronica meets rock, and you had to be able to play with drum loops and things like that. And
how do you feel about that?
I love that stuff. It's great. And so I heard the music and I thought, wow, well, this could be a lot of fun. So I went and auditioned, and Keith was there because he was producing Nick. And we just immediately hit it off, and luckily I got the job. And so for the next few years, we never toured. We just did a bunch of local gigs, did a lot of writing and rehearsing. And it kind of felt like a band, I guess, because creatively everyone was so involved. And so I became friends with Keith, and we were sound checking one day for a gig, and he just kind of casually asked, in front of everyone, like, hey, I'm going into the studio with Billy next week to record a new song. Do you want to come play drums? And I was just like, whoa.
Were you a Billy Idol fan? I mean, you got to say yes now, but truly, were you?
I certainly was. Yeah, my sister was a huge fan, so I heard his music for a good part of my life growing up, and so that happened, and luckily it went well. And after that, Keith kind of brought me in.
And Billy wasn't really playing out that much at that time?
At that point, no. I don't think he hadn't made a record in a long time, and he wasn't really touring. He didn't really have a band. So I would get called in here and there whenever, again, just like nothing that we recorded back then was ever released. This is demos and ideas that they wanted to put down.
Interesting.
To see how they would work. Yeah. And
what's his persona like? I'm just really curious because he has such a stage persona.
Yeah.
Is he that guy, or is that a thing that I'm going out? I'm now going to be that guy. Like how much of that is Billy and how much of that is the show?
He's actually a very quiet person and soft-spoken as well.
Interesting.
He's really funny.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Great, incredible laughter. That is like the way he laughs is hilarious.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
So to answer your question, I mean, of course, everyone's going to bring a different or a certain type of personality on stage. I mean, you can't walk around the grocery store. Right, you know. It'll work.
That would be interesting, to say the least.
Oh, you know, maybe he does. I've never been to the grocery store with him. So.
That would be interesting. I'm just looking. Hi, Mark. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Eileen. Hi, Gigi. Estelle. So Jude is the first one. What else is going on? So you get Cher. How does that happen? What is that like?
So the Cher gig, I only did that very briefly. Basically got hired to go to New York for maybe a little bit more than a week. To do a bunch of TV shows with her. She had released a new single, and she was doing the TV show run, like Letterman, Good Morning America, and I can't remember everything. Oh, we did actually Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, wow.
We were in Los Angeles. Yeah. We had to be dressed in all white. Yeah, I looked ridiculous.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All white.
So that was in 2013, and I was friends with the musical director, and he just called me up, hey, you want to come do this?
And how was it working with Cher? She's little. She's very small. I was shocked when I was standing next to her because she just has a very big presence, because she's just, I don't know, I imagined her very statuesque, and she's actually
big
very
voice
petite
too.
And a big voice.
She was great. I mean, I didn't have much interaction with her other than being introduced and doing a couple of rehearsals and just showing up in the TV studio. And, sure, obviously, since I wasn't touring with her, you would have a different experience with her in that situation. But.
Right. So, and you played with Jackson Browne, which is, I'm assuming, how you met Jeff. Is that how you met Jeff?
Yeah, I never toured with Jackson. I met Jeff way before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've known Jeff forever. One of my best friends, and so we had made a couple of records, and we were doing gigs around town, and because obviously Jeff had been playing with Jackson for a long time. Excuse me, Jesus. Jackson would come out to the gigs a lot of the time, so he hired us to be his band for a benefit show that he was doing somewhere down in Santa Monica. I can't remember what it was for, and something else. So that was a brief thing, but I would run into him here and there and jam a couple of times here and there.
But I saw Erik recently play at Molly Malone's with Jeff Young, who's going to be in the living room, by the way, on Tuesday. Women Who Write. He's going to be playing here live, and we'll be live on the Facebook, and he'll be live in the living room too. There'll be 40, 50 women in the living room Tuesday morning. Excellent. Which is a trip. Yeah, and
you guys need to watch it because Jeff is great.
He is. That show,
there
was not a moment of that show that was not spectacular. Every song. You were amazing.
Thank you.
Jeff and Danny, when they sing that their cover of Que Sera Sera just killed me. But Jeff's CD album, every song, I just loved every song. There was not one song that was not a winner for me. I'm gonna post Jeff's album. It's amazing. So you've been playing with him a long time. Are there other favorite LA players or that you have played with over the years that you go out and club with, and that's a fun thing to gig with?
I don't play that much locally anymore unless it's things like we did the other night.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So how do you get to be... The other night, Music Cares did, Dave Navarro and Billy Morrison did a benefit for Music Cares for mental health, to raise awareness, to raise money, both of those things.
Yeah.
And so
suicide prevention was a big aspect of that.
Dave told that was very intense. In the darkness, he had them bring the lights down, and he told a very personal story, which was very moving, about how he was saved. How do they come to you? Because you were basically the drummer of record for that whole night.
Yeah, so that goes back to me starting with Billy back in 2012, and
okay, so how did that happen?
Oh, that's a very long story.
We need that. That's a good story.
Okay, I'll
we need
tell that
story.
next. But just
Okay.
to briefly explain how I got involved with all those guys.
Okay.
So obviously Billy Morrison had been in the band a couple of years before me,
Mm-hmm.
and we got along great immediately. And he had a side project called Camp Freddy, which is now called the Royal Machines,
Okay.
where it's basically a core band of friends that do mainly corporate events
Mm-hmm.
and will invite a bunch of different singers. And a lot of those singers were obviously guests the other night as well. So I got involved with that, and excuse me. And so over the years, I've just done a lot of those gigs and a lot of benefit type gigs similar to the one that we did Monday night. And all of us have just become really good friends. So it just kind of made sense, I guess.
So let's talk about that event, because thanks to you, Samantha and Harry and I got to go, which was crazy. That was just the most interesting mix of people. To go from Billy Idol to Juliette Lewis was, it was just kind of trippy. That whole thing going on.
Yeah.
So doing the Stooges and then David Bowie, like, who made that? Who made that call? Because that was also
Dave and Billy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave Navarro, Billy Morrison. So
I'm sure they bickered back and forth about which records to do, but
yeah, they did whole albums, which was Gracie V. Stardust. So, and how does Jack Black get into that mix?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm sure he's friends with Dave, and Dave probably called him up and said, "Hey, can you please come and do this?" And he said, "Yeah."
Jack Black came out in a, I don't know what to call that.
Yeah, good lord.
Yeah, and then there were huge, I don't know if they were transvestites. I don't know what they were. Were they transvestites? Yeah. Very
I think it's
interesting.
safe to say that.
Very interesting women out there with him, and he did a very Suffragette City. It was quite the.
Were you there when? Did you see when the taller of the two bent over?
I
and
did.
Mooned the audience.
We did.
Yeah.
There was mooning going on. There was this going on. There
Yeah,
was.
So that was okay. To go back to what you were saying earlier about
Uh-huh.
having nice asses in front of you when you play drums, that happened, but he was turned the other way around.
Right.
meaning I could see right up his ass. I don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah, I guess there are times when it doesn't serve you to have that view.
No,
That's hysterical.
not at all.
But anyway, it was an amazing show. It was Monday night at the Fonda Theatre, and I guess they raised a nice amount of money because the place was packed to the
Yeah,
max.
I think it almost sold.
And Dr. Giroux was there with Tom Arnold. That was a trip too. I don't know what was going on there, but they were doing. They did a little auction and sold some local art to raise money, and they did a really good job actually. Some of those pieces went for a few $1,000s, which was very nice, and that was pretty cool. And Gavin Rossdale came in and sang a song, and Billy did a couple of songs. So we were talking about this earlier, but before we get into what Billy's doing now, so how did you meet him? How did you start playing with him, actually?
So it goes back to Keith Forsey and
The producer, yeah.
yeah, and the working relationship that I ended up having with him, which expanded into basically his engineer Brian Reeves, who owned Jungle Room Recording over in Glendale. That was basically the studio where Keith did all of his recordings. So, and Brian was also producing other artists. So I sort of became his drummer as well, and sort of like, and every producer that came through there I ended up working with, and so that led to also people like Georgia Moroder and Harold Faltermeyer, and all of these people had in some way or another worked with Billy on one of his records in one way. Like Brian worked on a lot of his records. And so
how long had it been since Billy had put out a record when you started to work with them? Had it been a while?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
It had been a while,
The record
right?
before it was called Devil's Playground. I can't even remember when that came out. Maybe early 2000s.
Okay, and then you met him in maybe 2012, 13-ish?
No,
Before?
that's when I started playing with him in the band.
Okay.
So I met him. This must be like 2000 or something. Maybe.
Okay, long time ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyways, long story short, I ended up working with all these different people, and again, getting called in here and there to record for Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, Keith calls and says, "Hey, we're going in. We need to re-record Rebel Yell and Dancing with Myself for some commercial use. I guess for the license reasons. They needed to re-record them and have them sound exactly, or as close as we could to the original recordings."
Mm-hmm.
So I did that with them, and shortly after that, I worked with Steve Stevens on a similar soundtrack to what he did with for Top Gun with Harold Faltermeyer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those two things happening sort of.
Do you do a lot of that? Do you do a lot of film stuff?
No, I've done a few things here and there, some TV stuff. But having those two things happening, I think it was probably within the same year, so maybe 2011. And then Keith calls again and says, "Hey, Billy has a few gigs lined up just up here on the West Coast, and they don't have a drummer, or it's not working out with the guy that they have. And so they're asking about you," which seems to make sense, because at that point, now I'm also a little bit older and we had just finished doing those things that went well. And so he said, "And if that goes well, there's a potential chance to join the band." So of course I'm like, "Oh my God, okay." So
now, have you been in a band prior to this, where you put in time, years? Not so much?
a little bit. I was in a band called Low Millions in like the mid 2000s with Adam Cohen, Leonard Cohen's son.
Oh.
And we made a record, and actually Keith produced a few of those songs, became the singles. And I think that's the closest thing that I've sort of done as a band.
Did you want that? Did you want to have that sort of?
At the time, I think I was always more freelance person, wanted to just play on people's records. And actually, for a long time, I didn't even really want to tour. I just wanted to stay in town and play on records. And at that point, I also started producing for other artists. So I just wanted to sort of take that route for a while. But so, anyways, after that phone call from Keith, of course, there was only one. I mean, I don't think I even had time to hang up the phone before I jumped behind the drums and started like really practicing and making sure, because I'd sort of gotten a list of songs that they wanted to rehearse. So yeah, luckily that all went well, and the rest is history.
And so, how has that experience been, being in a band? And
well,
he's very iconic. I mean,
he is, and for a good reason, because
he brings
he's unstoppable. Like there's just something about him. I mean, it must have been so evident the other night too. When, of course, there was
he stole that show.
Yeah,
he stole that show.
A lot of great performances that night, but there's just something when he comes out and just floors everyone. It's like,
yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah, it's a force.
He was amazing. He is a force. And you were saying that he's re-upped his passion, his commitment. Like I was saying, friends of mine went to the Brian Wilson show the other night, and Billy got up, and he's been doing that kind of thing. Yeah,
he's been doing a lot more of that. I see him popping up all over the place, sort of unexpectedly, which is great. Yeah, no, I think I don't really know the reason why. I think he's having fun with it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, are what's in the cards for you guys? What's coming up for? Are you guys going out? Are you making a record? What are you doing?
Yeah, we leave again this weekend. We have a string of private shows coming up, and then we go back to our Las Vegas residency the first 2 weeks of October.
Oh, nice. Where do you play?
At the Palms. The venue's called the Pearl.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful sounding venue, really, really great.
And so, how long at a clip do you do residency there?
We usually do 2 weeks at a time. We used to do longer. But we play 3 times a week: Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
So now, when you
If you
do the
wanna
Las
come.
Vegas trip, what kind of people are coming to see Billy in Las Vegas? I imagine they're people my age for the most part, and
Mainly midgets.
mainly midgets. Or just like women must still go crazy for him and do all of that stuff. Does he have all that going on? He must have all that going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's surprisingly enough a very wide variety in terms of the demographic. Yeah, I'm constantly surprised at, especially at how many young people we usually get.
Yeah.
I guess maybe people are rediscovering him, or people are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very encouraging to see so many young people in the audience.
That's very
Yeah.
cool. Do you have, as a drummer, favorite bass players that you have played with through your career that you just love? When this is going to be great.
Yeah, I have a lot of those.
You have a lot of those.
Yeah.
Anyone are there any that stand out that you just love to play with? You don't want to say because you're being political.
No, it's not about that. No, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are absolutely amazing bass players that are, like for all of us, were suitable for certain things.
Have you played with Willie?
I've played with him a lot. And
Well, it's great.
become really good friends.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Playing with Carmine the other night.
Yeah, I'd never played with him before. Yeah,
Oh, really?
He was great.
Carmine's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Super sweet guy and very easy and great to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is John Evans, that maybe a lot of people don't know about, but he was, a lot of people that aren't musicians, should I say, but he was playing the Torianas for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually a funny story, because
Yeah.
I've been a huge fan of his playing for such a long time. And
You must have been a fan of hers to know of him. Yes?
I'm
No?
a much bigger fan of his.
Wow.
I like her too. It was
Okay.
actually my ex-wife that introduced me to Tori,
Mm-hmm.
to Tori's music, because she was more or less obsessed with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept thinking, man, yeah, she's good and whatnot, but the bass player's fucking amazing. So, anyways, fast forward to 2013 when I get called to do the Cher gig in New York, and they say basically, well, we don't have a bass player, but we don't really want to fly out any more people from Los Angeles. So, do you know anyone on the East Coast? And I didn't know John at all. I never met him. We had no relation whatsoever. And I remember that a couple of years prior to that, I played with a singer-songwriter named Sasha Dobson, who lives in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd seen a post on her Facebook that she had worked with John at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I'm going to be clever here.
Mm-hmm.
I called her up and I said, hey, do you think John would be interested in playing with Cher for a week in New York City to do all these TV shows? She goes, yeah, of course, absolutely. I'm like, okay, well, do you want to ask him, and then if he's okay with it, have him call me? She's like, of course. Yeah, so he calls me and goes, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And we did that, and we became really good friends, and now we've worked on a bunch of records together.
Nice.
So sometimes, you gotta, jump ahead a little bit and take some chances like
How
that.
about drummers that like who inspires you?
That's a lot of them, in many different ways.
Like, do you have a hero?
Yeah, I guess. There's two people that, I would say most of my life I have always studied and continued to study. And one would be Tony Williams, and the other one would be Jeff Porcaro.
Mm-hmm. Have you gotten to meet them?
Neither.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they both passed on.
And so what moving ahead, is there something Crystal saying ex-wife, that's a start. she's getting her information. Mary Ellen says, what a nice guy.
Little do they know.
Little do they know. Hi Pete. Hi Michael. So what's the aspiration? What if you could paint the future exactly as you want it, what would it be?
I don't want to.
You like the open canvas?
You know, I'm 43 years old now. There's like never a guarantee in the music business.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that even as a kid, you know, because of course you get your warnings from other people, like saying maybe, are you sure you want to get into this? Because, you know, you never know when the next job is going to come, or it's difficult to plan ahead and financially plan, and, you know, all of those reasons. And I've just sort of lived my life that way, like the whole time. I mean, yeah, like I know what I'm doing with Billy for the next 6 months, for example.
Are you guys working? You're working a lot.
Yeah, we're working quite a bit. Yeah, because after the Vegas thing, we're going to Mexico for a week, and then we have a couple of months off over the holidays in Australia, New Zealand,
Nice.
January, February, and then back to Vegas in March. I think that just got announced. Sorry, I think so. Otherwise, I spill the beans. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think I have maybe subconscious plans in terms of what I would like to. I mean, would I like Billy Idol to continue to tour for another 20 years? Absolutely. Do I think that's realistic? No. Do I think something else will come along? You know.
Do you want to do some more producing? Is that something that turns you on?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm when I'm home, when we're not touring, that's all I do.
And how about gigging around with, like I saw you gigging with Jeff Young, and that was phenomenal. Do you do quite a bit of that, or not so much?
Not a whole lot, no. I mean, if it's close friends like Jeff, like in that case, it was his CD release party, so
it was fabulous, yeah.
I was going to be part of that. But no, in general, I want to focus on the studio stuff when I'm home. You know, it kind of keeps that balance nice, you know, live work versus studio work.
So you're still in the studio a lot?
Yeah, yeah, I have my studio that I pretty much do everything these days.
Well, and so if you're going to go out and hear music, who might you venture out to hear these days?
On Friday, I'm going to go see my friend Steve Lukather with his band Toto at the Greek Theatre.
Nice.
So, yeah. And a couple of weeks ago, I went to see another phenomenal guitar player named Michael Landau, with my friend Abe Laboriel Jr. on drums.
Okay. Oh, I saw his dad. Okay, for the first time last week, I went to the Write-Off Room, and James Gadsden, and
Gadsden's great. Oh my God, he's
Gadsden,
a legend.
James is doing this show in a couple of weeks, and I am so excited to
How
sit down.
amazing.
He is amazing.
Wow, the
and
history of that guy.
Abe playing bass is the two of them together. It is so. They are so crazy. Mike Finnegan was my guest last week. Mike Finnegan on organ, and they are just. I don't have words for them.
That doesn't wet your panties. I don't know.
Yeah, they are crazy. Yeah, I was saying I get to go to the Bowl next week and see Jeff Beck, who I've idolized my entire life, with Rod Stewart, which is crazy.
That's gonna be amazing.
Doing that old stuff, and I want to give a couple shout outs because I have a couple people that support me and make this wonderful. So my hairdresser, and you wear some product. You can see her product is called Fuck Off. Nicole,
I'd like to try that.
Yeah, all right. I'm
Because even with the limited amount of hair that I have, having some strong hairspray is always good.
You have some, yeah. So this one, you don't fuck around with this one. Nicole Venables of the Rubegonia Salon. She is my coiffer, and she does the hair on Will and Grace and on Man with Plan, and she's fabulous, and she's got a whole line of great products, and they're all called Fuck Off, which is fantastic.
My kind of gal.
That's my kind of gal too. And then there's Rick Smokey. If you ever need, I don't know what you'd need stuff, but if you ever need anything printed, if you ever need liner notes or you need CD things done or anything like that, Rick is friend of the musician, and he has cooking presses in Chicago. They're printers. He's never charged a musician for anything. He is just so behind artists, and Jackson Browne is his favorite. Jeff, you're going to be getting stuff. But anyway, so he's made my
that's perfect. Jeff blows his nose a lot. So.
He does. But Jeff produces, his own CDs, and so, you need liner notes. You need stuff like that printed. And Rick's just the best. And, so next week, wait, let me get so next week, Teresa, do you know Teresa James?
I don't.
She
I've
was-
heard about it. A friend of mine plays drums with her.
Who's that?
Herman Matthews.
Oh yes, Herman.
Really
Herman also
great
plays
drummer.
with Snuffy Walden. I saw
That's right.
Herman play. They do the Babylon Social Club with Leslie Smith
Oh yeah.
and Terry Wilson is the bass player. And Terry and Teresa are a couple, but they were just nominated for a Grammy this year and Blues
wonderful.
Grammy. Yes, they're amazing. So they're going to be on the show next week, and we're going to go up to their place, and so they
you
can
get a lot
play.
of great people coming
I get
over
great
there.
people.
Wow.
And yeah, James Gadsden's going to be with us in a couple weeks, and Lainey Kazan in 3 weeks, and yeah, some fabulous musicians and stuff. And in the living room on Tuesday, if you're in LA, 11 a.m., you can come live and see Jeff Young play from his amazing new album. It's amazing. He's fantastic songs, and Danielle DeAndrea is going to be singing, and Anna Montgomery, who's an amazing singer, and Mike Lang, who's played on 2,000 film scores from
That's nothing. Wow.
and he's played with everyone from like Zappa to like James Brown. He played with Cher. He's played
Bunch
with
of hacks.
everybody. So all of them are going to be playing in the living room. And I thank you so much for doing this. And
Thank you.
you've just been lovely. And I really appreciate you inviting us out the other night. It was such a good time. And it was so
Anytime,
amazing
of course.
to see. I mean, I saw you play with Jeff, and you played hard that night. But like playing like the Stooges is like, that's playing hard. That's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a whole different kind of playing. I thank you so much, Eric, for doing
Thank
this.
you very much.
It's been lovely. Mwah! And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Samantha, for being behind the camera.
Thank
My
you,
daughter's
Samantha.
here till Saturday, and I'm getting to be a mom, which is so great. I love you. And thank you all, and we'll see you next week on Game Changers.